Hey everybody. So every now and again on the Kenshi subreddit, I see questions about what the best armor is to wear, which people equip their crew, and I've thought about making that video a few times, and every time I get around to doing it, it just gets super lengthy and kind of gets lost on its own self. So I thought, what better way to explain the best armor than to just show how armor works? Because at a certain point, your stats are going to get to such like demigod levels that it kind of doesn't matter. So it really only matters in that getting to that stage. So you can really wear whatever you want, whatever you like. All this information you can find scattered about the Kenshi Wiki. I will have that posted in the description below, a link to that. If you'd just much rather go there and read that at your leisure, please do. But otherwise, if you just want to see me go over it and kind of explain it, then stick around. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, I think the best place to start is at the very beginning. We're going to treat this as if no one knows a single thing about how the armor works, and we are going to start with the coverage percentage. Now, just to make sure we are all on the same page, if we look at the left arm at 25% of its coverage, that means when he is hit in the left arm, there is an invisible dice roll to see if the damage resistance is applied. It is not the amount of the damage resistance applied. So, again, invisible dice roll, whether or not it does. We can see obviously stomach and chest at 100%. When it makes that check, it automatically passes and applies the damage resistance. So we might look at this and go, wow, that left arm, right arm, 25% chance of coverage. I don't really like those odds. There's another thing we have to understand, which of course, like most things in Kenshi, it doesn't outright tell you, but you may have noticed. I'm going to throw up on the screen here some pictures, and it is the individual body part chance to be hit. So feel free to pause if you like, just to look at those at your leisure. But you're going to see that each body part has its own percentage chance to be hit. And on the human, the chest and the stomach have equal chances to be hit, and are also the highest chances to be hit, whereas the other limbs are much lower. You'll notice that there is a to hit number, and that directly correlates with the percentage to hit chance. If we add up that percentages, it will with some rounding equal 100%. That will be important a little bit later. Keep that in mind. So if we look back here at the unholy chest plate, knowing that the chest and the stomach are the most likely places to be hit, we can see that that does in fact cover that mostly. And we can see on the limbs where, strictly, generally speaking, we might not be hit as much, less coverage chance. So all of a sudden, that 25% chance coverage doesn't look so bad, because we know that the limbs don't have as high of a percentage chance to be hit already. However, we'll notice that some races, like the skeletons and the hivers, they do not have the same chest to stomach percentage chance to hit. And I think it's kind of neat. If we look, you can see, despite his size, I guess I gotta take off his pants too, his stomach is not the same size as his chest, even as goofily as we have made him to be. And you will see with our skeleton here, with Sad Neil, that it is much the same. Oh, come on, there we go. His stomach, a little bit. His chest, much larger. So I just think that's neat. That is actually a physical thing that has been modeled on the races as well. So we understand that there is a coverage percentage. We understand that there is a bodily part percentage chance to be hit. So those coverages on the armor and the body parts themselves kind of interact in a way. Now, there is something called the hit multiplier, and this factors into the bodily parts percentage chance to be hit. So again, this is going to go back to our percentage coverage and how we can kind of work a little bit of gamba, a little bit of odds into our potential favor. The hit multi is anytime a body part is hit, it increases the hit chance number. So when it gets hit once, it will double that, which will correlate to almost a doubling of the percentage chance. So if it's a 25% chance to be hit on a certain body part, and that part gets hit, and that gets a +1 multi, that goes up to 40%. It'll get hit again. Okay, if it gets hit again, then it goes to gets a 2 stack, and then that goes up to something like 50%, so on and so forth. The max stacks you can get are 5. Now, as we know, with all those percentage chance to be hit equaling 100%, every time a certain body part's number is increased, other numbers are decreased, lessening the chance that those body parts will be hit, and of course increasing the chance that those crit multis are on, or sorry, those hit multis are on. So again, knowing that, I can go back and look at this armor again. I know the highest chance to be hit is my stomach and my chest on the human. Knowing that, and knowing how the hit multi works, I'm playing the odds that in a fight, that's where he's going to get hit. And if he does get hit there, knowing that how the hit multi works, I'm again playing the odds that he will get hit there more frequently as the fight goes on. Which you may notice sort of almost anecdotally, but knowing how that works, it may make a little more sense. I've got some unfortunate souls out here. Let's see if we can kind of explain. You may notice in your battles, a lot of guys tend to get hit in 3 or 4 places. Obviously, as battles go on, you can get someone who's hit all over. But if you've ever noticed, and it seems anecdotal, that they're taking hits in just a couple places before they go down, again, you're going to have those outliers of just getting beat all to hell. But that's that hit multi coming into play. If you've ever noticed one of your characters, say they got hit in the stomach, they go down in combat, they wake back up, they throw themselves back in the fight, and a stiff breeze blows, and boom, back down in the dirt they go again. And they get back up, same thing happens, and it always seems like they're just getting one-tapped right back down to the ground. Well, that's that hit multi that's been stacked up on whatever body part that is, head, chest, or stomach usually, because that's what's going to immediately knock you down. And that hit multi has a timer. I believe it's every 30 in-game minutes, not real-life minutes, but just the in-game minutes, it drops a stack. So obviously, because that combat is still going on, and it's not been half an hour in-game, that multi is still ticked up. So when they get up and they get swung at and hit, they've got a huge, huge, huge percentage chance to be hit in that same spot that already knocked them down. So those are some, again, underlying numbers that the Kenshi doesn't tell you, but now that you know they're there, you may have, that what seemed anecdotal now might actually be more understood as things mechanically that have happened. Alrighty, so hopefully we understand that there is very much a connection with armor coverage percentages and the own body part's chance to be hit itself, and then how that works with the hit multiplier. So now we need to understand how the actual mitigation of damage works with armor. And to do that, we need to understand that there is an order of operation for armor mitigation. And this follows like this: head, armor, shirt, pants, and boots. So, for example, let's say that this character gets hit in the stomach. So, makes the first check, head armor. Head armor doesn't cover the stomach, so it checks the following, the next, the armor. This armor does. Okay, it applies its mitigations. Goes on to the next. The shirt. This shirt does cover the stomach. It applies its mitigations. Checks the pants. Now these pants have a chance to apply their mitigation to that damage. It rolls to see whether or not it does, moves on to the next. The boots. The boots do not. It's gone through its order of operation, the mitigations have been applied, and then that is the damage the stomach, in this case, would receive. So that's all more or less pretty straightforward. Again, it's essentially overlapping armors, but it is important to know that there is especially when you get to overlapping, that there is an order that it applies one to first over the other, which makes sense when you think about it. If you're wearing chainmail under your armor, you're not going to check chainmail first over the armor, but again, it's very important to know that it works that way because of how the resistances themselves work. So blunt damage is pretty straightforward. This unholy chest plate at Masterwork has a 53% blunt resistance. So it's, we're having blunt damage, then it passes that unmitigated to the next, and so forth. And that's very straightforward. It's the cut damage that it gets a little more difficult, but goes to show why against heavy armors, cut damage just really doesn't do anything at all. And it is that cut resistance efficiency. So let us take again the unholy chest plate. Let us again assume a chest hit of say 100 damage. So a sword comes in, hits him in the chest, 100 damage. It takes 81% of that 100 damage. So we're taking 81 points, and we're setting that 81 points off to the side. We are now applying our cut resistance efficiency against that 81 points. We are ignoring 95% of 81 damage. Just that 95% ignored, doesn't exist anymore. That remaining 5% gets turned into blunt damage, not or rather shock damage or concussive damage. It doesn't get applied to any resistances. It's just that's the damage that's going through. The remaining 19% of our cut damage then again follows that order of operation. Checks the shirt. The same things are applied. It checks are there any other layers of armor that will cover that. Whether or not it does, it will continue on. If it doesn't, that again is the damage applied. So we'll go to the shirt. We can see 42% resistance, 60% efficiency. So that 19 damage goes over here. 42% of the 19 is set to the side. 60% of that is ignored. And then the rest of all that combined is the damage that goes through to the body part. So it's a lot of percentages of percentages of percentages. It can get a little, if you're not friends with math, which I'm not, it can be a bit much. The thing to remember is this. It isn't just the cut resistance number that's important. It is the cut resistance efficiency that is almost even more important when it comes to that. And I'm sure there's some, so much of this and so much of that. But to give an example, we've got a bunch of armors over here. So we can see our light armors will typically have something like 50 or 60% of our cut resistance efficiency. Medium armors tend to pop up to about 70% of that cut resistance efficiency. And our heavy armors is where they start to get into that 80%, or as you see with the unholy chest plate, 95%. Now there are all kinds of pros and cons. The more coverage, the higher resistances. You're usually getting some pretty nasty detriments into your skills, where early on that might be making you just absolutely suck in combat. But when you start getting to that 60 plus combat stats, 80, it almost, there are so few enemies out there at that point that can stand against you that those detriments really no longer apply so much to any of your characters. If I have done an adequate job of explaining, at this point, hopefully, we all understand how armors work. We understand that the coverage percentage chance on the armor works alongside the individual body parts to be hit. We understand that there's a hit multiplier and how we can kind of play those odds to our advantage. We understand that there is an order of operation. We understand how mitigation itself works. And due to that order, which will make absolutely no surprise to anyone, it is most important that the first part of that order that's getting checked has the highest amount of damage resistance, and in the case of cut damage, efficiency. So a sort of too long, didn't read, the higher those numbers are, the better. So hopefully this has been of some kind of help. Hopefully it can help you see why some armors might not be as bad as other people like to say. I quite like the armored rags for those with a lower stomach percentage chance to be hit. But in the end, when your stats get super duper high, you could probably walk around naked and you would be, I'm sure, mostly okay. Have a good time at Kenshi.